Hello, welcome to Framework. We are returning to our series, Framework's John Carpenter's The Podcast. Rolls right off the tongue super easily. I am Al Schwartz, one half of Framework. The other half is here, John Bernard.
John Bernard, yes. Hello.
And today we're continuing the sort of follow-up series we've been doing on the directors we've covered previously, where we look at their progeny, their influences, and their out-and-out rip-offs that have come once they've established their style.
Yeah, and that brings us to John Carpenter today, the great horror filmmaker from, we did 18 films, I believe.
Yeah.
It's the longest we'd done until we did the Coens, I guess, which are a little bit longer because of their solo projects. But, we spent the better part of 2024, basically, talking about all of John Carpenter's movies. And so we have a very firm grasp of what a John Carpenter film is at this point, I would say.
This is certainly, since the Tarantino one that we kicked off with, the deepest bag and most direct, easiest to identify what the Carpenter ripoffs are. They come in a couple different varieties, kind of like we went through with maybe Fincher or somebody that, like, there are your 7 ripoffs and your Social Network ripoffs. And here, Carpenter, I went through so much of this forgetting that, oh yeah, also there's every slasher movie is hugely indebted to Halloween. And that is a Carpenter thing. It's not when you say a John Carpenter movie, I don't think a slasher. I don't think of Halloween first, even though that is inarguably his biggest, most well-known, most influential movie. But his style, I think, is embodied in the public consciousness more directly in something like Escape from New York.
Yes, that is an interesting distinction. I mean, Halloween is it's like Radiohead's Creep or something, It's like the most famous thing that they did in a way, almost to the point where you don't even associate with them at this point. And that is how I feel about Halloween, the John Carpenter film. He never made another slasher along those lines. Instead, everyone else did. I mean, he also, had his toes in the Halloween franchise on and off in some fashion forever. But no other film that he directed is what you would qualify as a slasher, exactly. What he really did a lot of was action horror movies. The intersection of action and horror is kind of where I see most John Carpenter influence. So if you see a movie that you could qualify as an action horror film, it has John Carpenter influences at this point.
Particularly if it is sort of a near future dystopian angle to it, and or really just like the synth score.
That's quite a bit of it.
That's what so much of the feel of it comes from. It's so distinctive to Carpenter, and the score to Halloween uses some synths and is incredibly iconic. But that's not something that all the slashers do carry forward. They tend to go, I guess, more. They're trying to stick closer to Psycho's scoring than Halloween's for the most part, and the dystopian sci-fi action horror stuff leans heavily into the 80s synthesizer stuff that Carpenter is so identifiable for.
Yeah, Carpenter as a composer is almost as copied as Carpenter as a director. Maybe more so even. I'm not sure, but anytime you hear a synth that starts in the credits where it's like bum bum bum, anything like that, you're just John Carpenter, and it's very exciting every time. Should we start with the slashers then? Halloween and their ilk. I mean, I watched Friday the 13th for this.
Yeah, okay. I didn't really prepare for the Halloween angle of it because I was focused, like I said, on the other side of things so much, and it occurred to me very late in the game that we could do every Halloween or every Friday the 13th movie. Also,
it's hard to avoid this when talking about Halloween is the proliferation of its tropes into an entire genre of movies that are very popular for the next 15 years and somewhat popular forever, basically. Friday the 13th is probably the most obvious ripoff. Well, it's interesting because the things you associate with that movie are not present in the original Friday the 13th either. Like the iconic killer that it ended up taking from Michael Myers, the Jason Voorhees with the mask. He's not in the first movie. In fact, the way the killer is treated in that is he's sort of he seems to be a normal person. There's POV shots of him picking up counselors it's her, Jason's mother. So it's treated a bit as a whodunit, a mystery. That said, it still has all the the teenagers having sex and hooking up and getting killed for their sins, all those other parts. What it is absent is all the incredible great parts of Halloween. Like, none of the stuff that is really exceptional about Halloween is there, and that's kind of true of most of these. They do not have that level of cosmic horror. They do not have this sort of
the score for one.
Yeah, the score. They don't have the philosophical kind of connotations of what's going on about does evil exist. None of that shit is present in any of these ripoffs, any of these holiday themed slasher films, which I guess Friday the 13th qualifies as.
Well, Jason's hockey mask is iconic in its own right, as iconic as the Michael Myers mask.
Right,
it's derivative of it and not as good.
Well, that's
up there.
That's true, and I think that would be a much stronger and more obvious thing if there weren't also a dozen Halloween sequels, that were of very low quality in many cases. Some of those are just as bad as Friday the 13th movies. So he gets lumped in, Michael Myers does, with the glut of these guys that came afterwards, and rightly so. But, none of those have the first Halloween in there.
That's true. That's the other thing I think that made it hard to sort of for me to address Halloween in this context, is because you also have this, there's 15 films in the Halloween franchise itself. So that franchise itself is almost...
They're greatly derivative of Carpenter.
Yeah. It's a full subgenre of ripoffs. But yeah. I mean, we did a whole episode on Halloween.
Yeah, we talked about this when we talked about Halloween. It's self-evident. The best one's probably Elm Street, honestly. The first Elm Street.
But even that, its hook is so distinct from just, it's more than a guy with a knife.
Yes, it's innovating. It's taking the premise and doing something with it and making it a little bit more unique and giving it a little bit more personality than most of these have. Giving Freddy a personality, for one thing. Having him talk, that is big. Most of them don't do that. Well, they do after Freddy, of course.
Yeah, Chucky is more comes after Freddy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The silent homunculus that is Michael Myers, that is such a carrier that goes through a lot of these films, and it really starts with Michael, unless you want to say it starts with Mary Shelley or something. But I don't.
No, I mean, no, because in Shelley the monster is actually very, very articulate.
Yeah, he's literate and verbose. Yeah, Boris Karloff. Then
one of the things I think makes it hard to talk about Halloween in this context is that it's so natural to just talk about the entire slasher movie as being born of Halloween. And that's horror buffs will wag their fingers at us and tell us that, no, actually, Black Christmas came before Halloween.
And Psycho and Peeping Tom. And but no, Halloween.
And Leatherface was a grunting homunculus before Michael Myers came around. But
sure. But is there any doubt that Halloween is the most copied slasher film? It's got to be. It's tabula rasa for so much of it.
I mean, I'm not going to argue that with you. It is to me, and the problem is my personal experience is Halloween was my introduction to slashers, and running that franchise is how I started when I was 12, and so all my personal experience backs up that feeling.
Yeah. Look, it's. I think it's self-evident, frankly, at this point, that yes, obviously, it was an immensely popular and influential film. and his tendrils are there in just about everything that's come after, and in some fashion or another, even if it's a subversion of things that happened that were already inspired by Halloween. It's part of the essential DNA of the slasher as a whole, Black Christmas notwithstanding. So, we can almost dispense with that, really. We can be just like, okay, well, that is understood. That's not really the Carpenter thing, though, per se.
Again, I guess Michael Myers is by far his most iconic creation, but that's almost been stolen from him so thoroughly that now he belongs to culture. It's almost like, why am I blanking? I'm blanking on the legal term for when copyrights go into public domain. He's become public domain, whereas Snake Plissken still feels like he belongs to Carpenter, even though he doesn't have the broad recognizability that Michael Myers does.
That's true.
Plissken is Carpenter's baby. It's more distinctively Carpenter, to my mind.
For sure it is. The Kurt Russell of it is a big part of that for sure. But yeah, it's the extent to which that character is taken seriously and not at the same time is kind of unique and sort of a moving target that really makes him stand out. It's hard to point at another thing that kind of has that exact alchemy. Is there anything? Is there a what would you say is the closest facsimile of Escape from New York? Or no, excuse me, of Snake Plissken. Hold off on Escape from New York.
Snake Plissken. Oh, I don't know. I'll have to work that out. The one movie that I watched for the first time for this was Lockout with Guy Pearce, which apparently
fun. Yeah.
is such a Carpenter, I believe, sued them
Successfully
for ripping off. Yeah, and that's a fun movie. The Guy Pearce character, though, he's even sort of he's more glib than Snake Plissken. He's really wisecracking. He is a step. There's on the road, you're doing the chart of evolution, from the monkeys to the man, and it's go. There's Snake Plissken, and there's Guy Pearce and Lockout, and then there's Star-Lord somewhere down the line in terms of escalating sort of goofiness and almost harmlessness as you go from R-rated anti-heroes that are fine with ending the world to just PG-13 family-friendly heroes that like to sass the bad guys.
Well, I mean, what could be more popular than sort of snarky, smug anti-heroes who sass the bad guys right now? And do those not come directly from Jack Burton? We definitely spoke about that when we talked about Big Trouble in Little China. Is that Star-Lord is a 1-to-1. It's quite literally. They made it explicit in the second film with Kurt Russell in it.
Yes, Jack Burton is an influence on Marvel, but I think there are
they're different characters, but
the Marvel thing is so defined. Even though the Jack Burton archetype that Star-Lord represents works so well in the Marvel context, that Marvel context was established by Downey Jr. and Joss Whedon in different layers.
I think there's Jack Burton and Downey Jr.'s performance too, though.
Okay. It's so much more glib, like I said. It's more fast talking. Tony Stark is actually as smart as Jack Burton wants to present himself as.
Right, that is an aspect that is uniquely Jack Burton. But is there? I don't know. I guess John McClane is probably the more classic example of the aloof hero who makes a joke while he's doing the thing, or even Schwarzenegger's famous one-liners. I don't know. There feels like a lot of Big Trouble in the MCU as a whole to me. I mean, explicitly with Star-Lord, but the vibes of that thing,
Oh, yes.
I think those lasted a lot longer than the actual film's cultural identity.
But yes, Jack Burton is a much more comic figure than Snake Plissken, and talkative.
Much more. He is much more, I suppose.
Yeah, because Snake is a man of so many fewer words. Fewer words.
Snake is a pure pulp creation. Is the thing. There is a tongue-in-cheek quality to him that I think sets it aside a little, that makes it, but not as much so as he's not explicitly comic as opposed to Jack. He is the kind of guy you would find in a pulp novella or an even grimier B-movie exploitation film than Escape from New York, which is kind of just putting on the clothes of exploitation film in a way. It's a little bit higher budget and intended for more of an audience than the sort of just Drek.
It's more ambitious. Well, that is an interesting, I guess, counterpoint to the other movie I watched for the first time for this, which was the Carl Urban Judge Dredd movie.
Well, and that's a great film.
A pulp, a pulp character, but of the least words, the fewest words possible. So humorless in contrast to the what I think of as the Carpenter hero, which I guess Carpenter hero is basically Snake Plissken, but a little more sassy. It's because it's got a little bit of Jack Burton sprinkled in when it's in my mind purely. Snake doesn't do a lot of wisecracking, like I said, but he is not without humor, like you said.
Yeah, there's an irony to him at least, but I don't know. I think Dredd has that too.
Well, Dredd, the movie has it, but the character is explicitly completely utterly humorless.
He's satirical though, like Judge Dredd, and even in the shitty Stallone film, which I guess you could also say is a bit derived from Carpenter, just because the character Judge Dredd in the comics is at least a little bit derived from those kind of movies. I wonder if you could draw that line, Snake Plissken to Judge Dredd. I mean, obviously they serve different functions. Snake Plissken is an anarchist.
Their relationship to state power is diametrically opposed as possible. They would kill each other on
But
sight.
the world they exist in, like, you could see them facing off easily, and I think the comedy comedy is the wrong word. The irony comes from a similar place, like that they are so po-faced and so serious in and of themselves that it is a bit of a comic creation. I mean, at least that's always how I haven't read a ton of Judge Dredd, the comics, but there's always seemed to be a Verhoeven kind of sort of radical intensity to it.
That's the second-hand impression I've always had. Because, I haven't read any 2080 AD comics. But that's a great action movie. The 2012 one that's written by Alex Garland, supposedly kind of shadow directed by him is possibly...
he nailed it, if that's true. I think that's a very good film. Very entertaining. And it takes structural stuff from Carpenter, too. Just the premise of the film, that they got to fight their way through the tower, is very, very Carpenter.
That's the thing. That, for the most proper Carpenter ripoffs, I'm looking for a siege scenario. And this is not quite that, because they're not like defending... They're locked in, and they're not defending it from attack from without. They are fighting inside. It's more of a raid scenario than a Rio Bravo.
Certainly.
Which is, fine. You don't have to check every box on the bingo card to fit this conversation. One thing I thought watching Dredd and Lockout back to back is the action is almost too good to be a proper Carpenter riff in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, but it's of a modern era. It's
exactly.
That's just sort of what action movies looked like at the time. It is better than most. It's certainly better than all the Paul Bettany badass angel movies or whatever that came out around that similar time. It's a cut above in that regard, and in every regard, frankly, from script to performance. That's the one to watch if you're gonna watch sort of a sleazy action film from about 15 years ago. How old is that movie? 2012,
I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But just that times have changed by the 2010s, and the choreography of the gunplay and the hand-to-hand combat is totally different. I mean, for as much as like the Layla's big fight scene kind of stands alone, and that I feel is so influenced by Roddy Piper and his wrestling background,
right?
But even that is closer on the evolutionary scale to the choreography of a 1940s Western, like bar brawl.
Very much so.
Than it is to the raid of the 2000s.
Yeah, it's not. That scene is not iconic because the action choreography is incredible, or that the fight is just that extreme and virtuoso. It's
not because of the filmmaking, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it is. I think the filmmaking is the reason that scene works, is because it continues so much longer than you expect, and then as soon as you think it's done, it's not done. It is ironic as well. It's a comedy set piece as much as it is a fight scene.
Sure, but it's not cutting for like maximum impact and speed and
very much no.
Like doing and doing event stuff. Yes, it is a sort of wide flat shot that becomes increasingly hilarious the longer it goes without cutting to another scene or something. But yeah, my point is that even his more action oriented stuff, a lot of times in the 80s, the iconic stuff, people are throwing big stage fighting punches the way that they did in old cowboy movies. So John Wayne would fight and really wind up and sock somebody in the gut and leave his hand in their gut for 3 seconds.
There's a real charm to that, I mean, and I like that. It's the same like Big Trouble in Little China has, it doesn't have the best fighting choreography you've ever seen. It's, it's much more. It's more about the postures that they take before and after they attack one another.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
but it's not viscerally exciting in a way that some of the action in Dread actually really is.
sure, that's true. I mean, Dread is like a really good movie. Like it's kind of terrific and really well cast, well utilized cast. Carl Urban, I think it's my favorite thing he's done. I think he's wonderful in it. Never takes off the helmet. Good choice. It's good. Good Lena Headey villain performance. Just a fun ensemble.
She feels like a Carpenter villain to me. Like she could just be in a Carpenter movie. She could have been in any the Snake Plissken movies. She could have been in Assault on Precinct 13. I mean,
or Ghosts of Mars. Yes. Uh-huh.
Or yes, up to Ghosts of Mars. That's true. She kind of expands eras almost in terms of how she would fit in. I also think that, I mean, granted, some of this is pulled from the comics, but there is this is farther in the future than most of the Carpenter sci-fi stuff goes.
Yes.
Maybe Ghost of Mars aside, but
that
there's
could be
a
a budget
cynicism inherent in the world building that feels of a piece with Carpenter sensibilities. And the sort of resistance to letting like the anti-hero's heart grow more than half a size. Like,
yes, I like that.
Dread is not fully softened by the end of this.
I like
in a way that feels appropriate to me. Like Pliskin also does not soften very much, if at all, throughout the course of those movies. And I said he and Dread might have opposite politics, but the sort of and the bluntness of their character arcs, the way that it's a little bit of a tilt more than a full arc.
Yeah, like what passes for a sort of an emotional moment for Snake Plissken is he will like he'll mercy kill somebody passionlessly, right. And I like that that the new Dread film actually makes a point of. They don't really. I wouldn't say challenge him on his fascism per se. That's sort of part of the fun of it, oddly enough. But they do give him actual fascist cops to fight. They figure a way to let him kind of fight the system as well. I think that's just good writing, honestly. When the bad judges show up in that, I think it's a great move.
Yeah, and it's just interesting. I didn't know, because not being familiar with the comics, I wasn't sure how much was Dredd an anomaly. Are all the judges sort of like this? Is he the most human and soft of the judges, for all I know, or is he the one that even the other judges are like, Jesus, this guy is pretty extreme, and so it took me a little bit by surprise. And it's also just in a movie that's not that long, but also very contained in its premise and doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver its hero on a character arc, whatever like that. Just something that surprised me a little. An hour in, that was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good script. It kind of keeps surprising you. Finds ways to do so, even if once it's established what it is and what the structure is, the sort of the narrative function of it. It's a tower. They got to fight their way through the tower. There's still twists to be had within that, which that's shooting above its weight for what it is.
And I wouldn't say Lockout overperforms. I'd say it reaches like fun B movie status. That one,
that movie is okay if I recall. I think Guy Pearce is kind of good in it, if memory serves.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
He could he's one of those actors that you just every once in a while you see something and you realize, oh, he could have had a completely different career. He could have been Iron Man instead of the villain in Iron Man 3.
I actually think Guy Pearce kind of has the exact right kind of career. Like he's able to do literally all sorts of movies.
Oh, right. But I mean, like he could have been could have been a mainstream action figure.
Oh, totally. He had the chops. Mm-hmm. Just the wrong projects. If the Time Machine was like a good movie, that might be the timeline we live in.
Yeah. I also have a vague sense that he wasn't super interested in being in 9 Marvel movies like that. I don't know if he would have chosen that, but he did. You're right. Try the Time Machine Lockout obviously shows that he's not. Doesn't have his nose totally in the air about being a stage actor or something.
He's in a lot of weird junk. That's the thing. Like he'll be in shitty B movies, then you'll be surprised to see like, what? You're in the Shia LaBeouf Prohibition action movie? That's weird. Stuff like that. but then he will also turn around and, do a major supporting role in The King's Speech or something like that. He has the best of all worlds, I think. It's kind of the right size of career. But yeah, he is surprisingly good as a Snake Plissken-esque figure in this. And he holds it together in a way that he could have phoned that in, and he didn't, which I appreciated. Everyone else kind of phones in Lockout a little bit. Well, the design team is good, too, if I recall.
Yeah, the design team's doing fine. The Irish actor Joseph Gilgun really is going full force as the crazy bad guy. So I wouldn't say he's phoning it in.
No, okay.
The female lead is Maggie Grace. So
yeah, coming back.
There's a ceiling on what you're going to get from her.
What a time! There was, what was it, about 2 years when Maggie Grace was in everything?
Yeah. It's got the most wildly miscast Peter Stormare I've ever seen. He's
that's tough, actually.
He's like the American Secretary of Defense or head of the CIA or something. Like,
he's not like a Russian space prisoner, because
no.
I would have assumed.
He is the suit that is threatening how you, whatever, Snake Plissken, whatever Guy Pearce's name is in that.
He's like the...
you watch your P's and Q's, Bliskin, or I'm going to nail your ass when you get back to Earth.
The Lee Van Cleef of it. I mean, I could see him doing that too, I guess.
I know, it's just that his accent is still there. And he's very high up in the U.S. government. At one point, he 25th Amendments the President of the United States and takes over, administration of the United States with the full backing, I guess, of the cabinet and Senate. And it's just like, well, that's... He's got like a goatee that's just dyed black with shoe polish. It's such a weird... I mean,
that's great.
It's you're never upset to have Peter Stormare in your B movie. I'm not like saying this is a real problem, because there could be a replacement level person who's more right for the part on paper, but is not as entertaining as just having him give weird line readings is.
No, I remembered him being in that, but I didn't remember him doing that. I assumed he played the bad guy or something like that. I thought they would get up to the space prison and he'd be like, I am a Russian space prisoner and I'm going to kill something that, bite a rabbit's head off or something. Some weird Mad Max shit. No,
he's fully the Lee Van Cleef figure, yeah.
Crazy. Okay, well, nonetheless, I feel like having Peter Stormare in your film gives it, makes it somehow just a little bit more Carpenter-esque in some ineffable way.
Like, I don't think they ever worked together.
That seems like a loss. Yeah.
It feels like if his career had started 10 years earlier, he might have done 7 Carpenter movies.
Right.
But he just ended up where he is. Worked out okay for both of them. I guess things trailed off for Carpenter in that once Stormare was on the scene.
Well, yeah. He removed himself, is the sense that I got from everything I heard. I feel like if, I don't know, he did talk about wanting to make Dead Space and shit. Like, I think to some extent he took himself out of it, though. Like, he's not agitating to get that shit made. He's content to just sort of be rich and playing his video games. Yeah.
We went over in the series proper how the trail off in the 2000s, like after
at length we did. Yeah,
we're here to praise his earlier films and influences.
All right, so you mentioned the tower defense, the Rio Bravo structure. Obviously, any movie that does that is kind of also doing Rio Bravo or any number of things. But I think you can point at ones that are specifically doing a Carpenter siege defense. And I think that those exist. The best example of which I would say is Green Room.
Okay. I have an alternative best, but Green Room is a great movie. I think the reason why Green Room didn't jump out at me initially, Green Room is one of the best siege movies of the last 20 years, I suppose.
Yeah.
But the reason why it didn't jump out at me as sort of Carpenter influence is it doesn't have a sci-fi element to it.
That's true.
It's a little more grounded. Like, I feel like it's a midpoint between Assault on Precinct 13, and it's almost got a Breaking Bad influence on it. Jeremy Saulnier, it seems to be in the more modern sensibility of like, what if we had a real person with no expertise here sort of improvising their way through these situations.
I agree, and I think that's what makes it so good, though, is it's taking what it wants And
Sure, but that makes it less Carpenter because Carpenter doesn't deal with real people. He deals with characters.
Sure. Okay. It's one of the most successful ones then, but
yes,
fair enough. The violence feels very Carpenter. The box cutters and such.
It's as nasty as Assault on Precinct 13.
Yes. And the punks feel very Carpenter. The white supremacists, maybe a little less so, but even still, he would make those guys in a film, I imagine.
The final beat of that movie, the resolution feels like something Carpenter would do. Like the final line.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I think the main thing maybe that separates it is Green Room has such its own sonic identity with the punk music and all that is so distinct from we're talking about the Carpenter thing with the synth stuff is so very different.
What was your thought then? What was your pick?
Tower Defense, very synth heavy score, sci-fi. I'm going Attack the Block.
That was a good one too. Yes.
The differentiation point there, very British to Carpenter's very American sensibilities. But
I mean, that movie takes place in England with British actors, but I think it has pretty American sensibilities nonetheless. That feels like a movie, much like Edgar Wright movies, which I also think we could be talking about today, that came off from people that were fed a steady stream of John Carpenter movies in their formative years and watched The Thing over and over again and watched, Big Trouble in Little China and They Live and all this shit over and over, and it just sort of seeped into their consciousness in such a way.
Sure. But Attack the Block is so relentlessly British in its language.
Yes.
It's sort of East End slang that's very pervasive there. It's amazing that's kind of comprehensible at all to an older American like me. But yeah, I watched that last night for the first time since it came out, and it's like it's wearing its Carpenter influences on the sleeve. The stoic hero, even though it's a 15-year-old, delinquent. He feels like a Carpenter hero to some
he really does.
degree.
Yeah. John Boyega, still I think the best thing I've seen him do, actually.
Yeah, probably.
He's so good in it. Yeah. And
he's quite good in Small Axe too. But
I never watched Small Axe. I'm sure he is good in it. I mean, it would only make sense for him to be good in it.
Yeah. It's more of it's a grown-up dramatic role as opposed to
he's not fighting bear aliens. Yeah.
With novelty samurai swords. It's I will say, Attack the Block, this is not a Carpenter thing at all. But it's the youngest I've ever seen an action movie be able to skew with effective action heroes. Like the Goonies are not effective action heroes to me, or even the Stranger Kids thing. A lot of times feel like they are too young to really be handling this stuff on their own.
Well, they are doing.
Boyega especially sells it. Yeah, they are. But Boyega comes off. I mean, they make it a point of the main lady in it is one point shocked to learn that he's only 15, and that's what Boyega can carry even at that young age. Sort of. I mean, he's probably 18 or 19 too when he filmed it. But you can buy him as 15, but also as a 15-year-old that is charismatic enough to have wrangled all the other 15-year-olds into a gang.
and just as capable once they get going. That he's actually able to be effective with the samurai sword, and as you say, it is about as young as a convincing action hero gets. Unless you want to get silly and be like, well, Home Alone and shit.
Yeah, but that's not effective in this way. That's what I'm saying.
The thing that I always remember about that movie that always surprises me, even though it's the thing I always remember about it, is some of the kids get killed. That's very Carpenter. There's no, what do you call it? They're not scared to murder 12-year-olds in that film. In horror movie sequences that you like, they're not even the bully kids. These are
oh yeah, that would be one movie. That's kind of what I forgot about it. I was trying to remember what I was turning on last night. Do any of these kids get got? They're so they're presented very likably, and I mean, granted, they're introduced bugging the lady kind of violently, which is quite a very deliberate choice. But then they're presented as the British Goonies to such a degree. But it's like if Corey Feldman got his head bitten off at one point in the Goonies, that would be a very different movie.
Yeah, and that's I think why that movie kind of, I don't know, stands alone. It never really was the crossover cult hit that I think it deserved to be. And that guy never made another movie. What's his name?
Joe Cornish.
Yeah, like, that sucks.
It sounds like it could be a British, pseudonym.
It does, sure, but no, I mean, he's a guy. He tried to make the Neil Stephenson film for a while, and it fell apart, and that was the last I heard of him. Snow Crash, which he would have been an interesting choice for.
Yeah, I think so. I think
nothing.
Jack the Block is a good stepping stool towards that.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I mentioned Edgar Wright. I don't know. I think it's fairly self-evident the ways they're literally quoting Carpenter in some of those films. Shaun of the Dead and World's End specifically are,
I suppose
referencing it.
He quotes. Well, there's a difference between, I guess, referencing. We're talking about influencing and ripping off, and when I guess with Edgar Wright, it's almost like he cites his sources. He's quoting lines directly and whatnot.
Tarantino style. It's an elevated form of ripping off. Yes.
Yeah, it feels a bit different to me.
Well, Jordan Peele.
Then it's not like pure imitation, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's playing a little bit different of a thing. And those movies are sort of undeniably creative in their in the way they're set up. So you're not going to call them derivative, even when that is part of the game of all three in the Cornetto trilogy. Jordan Peele is a guy who has explicitly referenced Carpenter in his films, or not his films, in his interviews. He's saying the biggest influence on me is John Carpenter. He's my favorite horror filmmaker. Like he talked about this at length, especially when Get Out came out, because it was surprised that Peele was making a horror film, and they were like, "Why did you want to do this?" And he's like, "Well, I love John Carpenter movies."
Peele never even occurred to me. I'm taken aback by this because when Get Out came out, it immediately established Peele as his own brand and sort of the head of his own subgenre of horror that would then
almost
be
certainly
imitated and derivative. And so I wasn't thinking that much about like what. But I can definitely see, and I guess I see more Carpenter influence in his subsequent movies than in Get Out.
Well, Get Out has the one thing that is explicitly a They Live thing, which is the way cell phones work. They reveal the truth in the way that the sunglasses work, kind of. That is something he has explicitly talked about. Like that They Live was the sort of genesis of that idea in his movie. But yeah, Us probably feels the most like a Carpenter movie.
Yeah. Because it becomes a little bit of a siege scenario. And the end of the world stuff.
No, really.
Carpenter plays around with the end of the world. I mean Us doesn't go as far as some of the Apocalypse trilogy does, but yeah, it's in there. Somebody I think of as a contemporary of Peele, as another sort of younger black filmmaker that had a breakout at the same time is Ryan Coogler, and I see a lot of
hell yeah,
Sinners has a ton of Carpenter in it. It's sort of a mashup of the siege element, and then it's explicitly sort of riffing on the Thing blood test scene at one point.
It has the Thing blood test, one of the most popular things to rip off in movies, and it's got the siege film very much so.
Its characters are very horny, which is kind of fits with Carpenter.
Yes, absolutely. Smoke and Stack feel like creations as often as not, and I think a big key to that movie working is they find the right tone to play that at, which is a Carpenter thing. Like you can take these characters that aren't seriously if they live in the world that is correct for them. And
but you could sell the Smoke and Stack action figures on the same shelf as the Snake Plissken action figure for sure.
Absolutely. It's also got a lot of From Dusk Till Dawn in it, of course, but then From Dusk Till Dawn has some Carpenter in it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess another thing that it's very musically driven too, in a way that Carpenter movies kind of are, but like kind of Green Room, its musical identity is so distinct from what we think of as the Carpenter sound.
Yeah, that's a different thing, I think. I mean, obviously the music is key in both, but yeah, it's very much doing
the music more diegetic in Sinners, I guess, and Green Room.
Yeah. That's closer to Oh Brother Where Art Thou, honestly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The music is very it's atmospheric rather than diegetic in the Carpenter mold.
Mm-hmm.
But man, so good at creating atmosphere.
I mean, Sinners is probably the best like recent Carpenter-esque thing.
No, I was just saying, like, how much, in terms of how effective the Carpenter sound is at creating atmosphere, like, how much juice has Stranger Things gotten just from having that opening riff, like, bass as a synth riff?
I mean, that's huge. I would say the thing that does most Carpenter-ish is just that synth score. And it's the entire musical identity of that show. It's all Carpenter-esque synth. Like, I remember buying the soundtrack to the first season of Stranger Things. That's how taken I was by it. It's really good. And yeah, it gives that show a lot of identity as well, even if it's just Carpenter. And, I guess when you get right down to it, it's way more Stephen King or Steven Spielberg than it ever is Carpenter in its narrative. But it certainly feels like, it's that 80s Halloween thing that just comes straight out of that synth score. Mass Effect does the synth score thing too. Another thing we've talked about.
Oh yeah,
that's a big part of that identity of that for me is that it has sort of a B movie sci-fi quality given to it by that synth score that reminds me of not Dark Star. That's not exactly right, but he didn't really make a good space film, did he?
Not a good one.
No.
I mean, the thing touches on space,
right?
That's not what you think of. You don't think of it as a space movie. No, I mean, we talked about in our Mass Effect series.
Of course.
One thing I would like that when they finally get around to adapting that for the screen, they could do a lot worse than just licensing some of the music John Carpenter's made since he retired from film and slapping it directly on it. It would totally work.
God, I would love to have him involved in that.
I think he's too old now, but
probably. But not for the music. If they wanted to bring him in to do the music for it, that'd be great. Yeah.
I had a question for you about a movie that I didn't get a chance to track down for this week.
Sure.
But I hear it cited a lot as very Carpenter influence, and that's Doomsday. Have you seen that one?
I have seen Doomsday. Yes. And I mean, it's like all these things. There's so many movies that are Carpenter-ish, but this one's pretty. I don't know. It kind of presents as Mad Max kind of stuff. Let's see if I can recall. It's a team that has to go into like a team of paramilitary figures who has to go into sort of a blasted land area where the Marauders have taken over. So it is very Escape from New York in its premise. It does some very cool things, and the Mad Max Marauders definitely have Escape from New York vibes as well. It does something cool about like 2/3 of the way through where they find a different place of isolated, ravaged England that is ruled over by Malcolm McDowell, who has sort of brought back the Middle Ages. Like he's living in a castle with a feudal system. And so it's an entirely different kind of B-movie genre that it morphs into. It's a cool movie. It's very derivative. It's Neil Marshall, I think. I don't know. I wasn't ready for this one. I think it's Neil Marshall, the guy who did The Descent. And that's
a good horror movie. I don't know how Carpenter-ish it is, but that's a really good movie.
Well, that one is not Carpenter-ish, but this one is like a love letter to Carpenter. Now that I reflect on it, I should have watched that for this. Yeah, that's a good one.
At a glance, the aesthetics of that movie do look to me more Mad Maxy than Carpenter-ish, and like my assumption is like this must have a really synth heavy score to like tip it to everybody cites Carpenter as the bigger influence than Mad Max on it.
It does, but it's also the plot of Escape from New York, essentially.
Okay.
I'm sure that there's Carpenter music going on in that. It definitely has the vibes. But yeah, the Mad Max look is a thing, but I don't know. I think that, it's a little bit Ghosts of Mars, Slipknot, Zombies too. Like there's that exists within Carpenter as well. The one I always think of as being like the best Carpenter film that he didn't make is The Warriors, and that's nonstop those guys. I mean, it's too early to be influenced by him per se, but that feels like a John Carpenter movie top to bottom, and that's full of those dudes.
It does. It just came out before what a John Carpenter movie is had really been codified.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we can't. Yeah. So we have to caveat it with it was not actually influenced by him in this way, but it fits. It fits in the movie marathon with the rest of these very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, it probably influenced Carpenter after a fashion. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that and I mean, we talked about it when we talked about Escape from New York. So there's those. let's see. I mean, I kind of want to bring up just The Thing, being this iconic film that was, of course, a massive flop when it came out, and so its influence kind of happened later. And you'll see movies that are explicitly doing The Thing, get made now, low budget. It's a lot easier now that you can do CGI things. What I find kind of more interesting is the auteurs taking 1950s sci-fi horror movies and remaking them as body horror, which is The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum remake from Cronenberg, and The Blob, Chuck Russell film. A little less remembered, but it's definitely doing that thing. And both of those are some of the grossest body horror films of the 80s, coming in only second maybe to The Thing itself.
That's a hell of a triple feature for if you have a strong stomach. Mm-hmm. Those are three of the, I'll say best movies of the 80s. I love all those. I haven't seen The Blob in quite a while, but I remember being very impressed. For whatever reason, when I first got into that, I thought it was going to be pretty tame, and was floored and delighted how not tame it was.
It's fucking got kids getting killed again by blobs. Yeah, I mean that's always been a premise that's kind of scared the shit out of me. Just from the original 1950s film, just sort of the amorphous goo that just dissolves anything it touches. And they go there. The 50s film obviously doesn't have it can't really. It just kind of blob falls on somebody. They give it its full articulation in the 80s film. And it's an underseen movie, but man is it gory, man is it funny. It's great. And if you enjoy The Thing, I think it's doing similar things. Even more classic 1950s style. It's got teenagers racing cars. I think there's a scene at like a drive-in movie theater and shit. It's just having a good time with that, with those style of films, but making them disgusting.
I don't know if I can fully cite that. Oh, these things happened because of The Thing, or because
no, probably not
influenced by Carpenter.
In spite of The Thing, if anything.
Right. Well, I mean, the filmmakers could still be influenced by it, even though the studios did it in spite of The Thing's performance.
Well, that's what
I don't know. Cronenberg also is his own genre, kind of. I feel like that he had established independently of Carpenter too.
I feel like Cronenberg and Chuck Russell both saw The Thing, though. I'm sure that was in the hopper. I'm sure that was an idea that they, that crossed their minds while they were working on these things. Because they're making 1950s atomic fears horror films, but with disgusting body horror. I think that's The Thing.
I was trying to see, did Rob Bottin work on either of those movies?
I don't think so. He was kind of like a famously dropped off the face of the earth guy. After The Thing, there was one other big thing he did. What was that?
RoboCop 3, The Howling.
Total Recall is what
Recall.
That's the kind of the classic Rob Bottin thing that happened after.
You're leaving out a big one, which I think is also very apropos to our discussion here. Rob Bottin also worked on Deep Rising.
Oh, did he? That's
according to Google, if it can be trusted these days. But
I love Deep Rising.
I made my stepson watch it the other night. He liked it. It's pretty good. Just a pretty good little B movie.
I'm a big fan of that one. Yeah, Treat Williams is quite good in that, doing a Carpenter protagonist.
I was going to actually cite. I think he's actually the weak link in the movie. It's not necessarily that Treat Williams is bad. I think that the character is very thinly sketched outside of he's kind of a Han Solo type, and so he's a little bit of a pussy. He's a little too cuddly to be a proper Carpenter protagonist.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. All the good guys are a little compromised in that film, but they're still pretty good guys, more so than they would necessarily be in a Carpenter movie. However, the other dudes, the mercenary team, still feels like Carpenter characters.
And I think the way that they have to build working relationships with those sort of more antagonistic people, and the way that I don't know if she would have become a love interest in the same way in a Carpenter movie as Famke Janssen does in this one, but I don't know. It feels like a character Carpenter could have had fun with it. And again, a capital C character. She is a very fancy 5'11" glamorous jewel thief.
But no, well, Famke Janssen pulls that off, though. That's who you cast to do that sort of B-movie character and come up with something. And she's just, it's Famke Janssen in the end of the 90s. She's, fuck. I mean, put her in all the movies. She's gorgeous.
Yeah. She's somebody, like, not in the exact same way as Guy Pearce, but somebody who I feel like could have had a completely different career also. That, like, they never quite figured out what to do with her outside of Jean Grey in the X-Men movies, where she has to kind of tamp down, actually, some of her glamour. I mean, obviously, her Bond villainess is working to her strengths very, very well. But
par excellence, but that's not the sort of thing you can just carry over to be, I don't know, a mainstream leading lady. That's it's an outlandish villain performance, and it's one of the best. But I don't know. I feel like they were trying to position her as a bit of a Demi Moore figure for a bit, and it didn't quite take. And then she, turned 40, and everyone in Hollywood lost interest, which was a shame because, I think she had a lot to give, and ended up instead in films like Deep Rising and such.
Yes, and The Faculty, which is another very The Thing influenced movie. I feel like I guess that's sort of doing Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's not the 80s, I suppose, so we'll put it in a different category than the 80s body horror stuff, but it wants to be in the lineage of The Thing.
Well, it explicitly has the Thing blood test sequence.
Oh, does it?
Oh yeah, they have the drug is what they have to do a drug, like sort of a street drug that Josh Hartnett is selling because the aliens can't take that drug, so they all have to do drugs together.
Yeah. That's not
good one. It's a good little movie.
That a lot worse than rip off The Thing blood test scene. It's like it's a formula that works. Yeah.
There was that Guillermo del Toro script for At the Mountains of Madness. Did you ever look at that? That's a really interesting movie that didn't get made, sadly, but it was an explicit Thing riff because it's not at all like the book. It is basically The Thing pitched as a Jurassic Park style event movie with massive action sequences based around this sort of amorphous, all-consuming flesh beast, and it certainly had a blood test scene as well. I wish that had happened. It was a cool one.
Well, that Deep Rising has a sort of, it's a monster in an isolated location, which vaguely evokes The Thing, but really it's also kind of a Die Hard riff, and it's the guys are very well armed in a way that seems to fit in more with Ghost of Mars or some of the other.
Well, Deep Rising is kind of what I wanted Ghost of Mars to be, I would say. Like, if Ghost of Mars was hitting at that level, I would have been much happier with it. That just has sort of a sheen of polish and enjoyment and invention to it that Ghost of Mars only kind of hints at. That one, Ghost of Mars feel like they had to, like, rush to get that finished the day before it was due kind of deal.
Yeah, and it just doesn't, Ice Cube is early in his career. He's not good in that movie, and you have sort of people overperforming. You have Wes Studi and Jaimin Hansu in the baddie camp of this movie, which helps a lot.
Anthony Heald is really fun bad guy performance. He's always good as a bad guy.
Yeah. You have Magua and Dr. Chilton in your villainous camp in that movie.
That is stacked, actually, when you put it that way.
And of course, Kevin J. O'Connor, who everybody loves.
I do like him.
America's sweetheart. All right. The Hidden. This is one I wanted to rewatch for this, but I prioritized to try and dread for the first time. I remember really liking this movie, but I haven't seen it in 20 years. So if you got to.
It was my first time. I'd never seen The Hidden, and it rules. It's super fun. It's a total blast. It's Squib City in this thing. Talking 1988 film The Hidden. It's a comic Laughlin sci-fi movie about. It's kind of Men in Black-ish. Kind of. It actually has a similar plot to Lilo and Stitch. Oddly enough, it is about. But
it's pretty hard R compared to Men in Black.
It's hard R. Yes. Yeah. It's about a parasitic alien that is swapping bodies, jumping in and out of bodies on a he's on a joyride. He's just sort of burning through 1980s Los Angeles on a crime spree.
Almost virtuosity with Russell Crowe and Denzel.
Kind of, yeah, And the cops can't keep track of him because when he dies, he just swaps bodies, and then he's off to the races again. And there is a good alien that is chasing him, played by Kyle MacLachlan, and it's a buddy cop movie essentially, where the same Alien Nation kind of setup with a what's the guy's name? Michael Nouri, who's an actor I'm not especially familiar with, but does a really good version of Dave Toschi here. And paired with with MacLachlan, who apparently left the set of this movie to go play Dale Cooper in the first season of Twin Peaks. So he's got that energy. He's it's a very similar performance. He is ostensibly playing a Seattle-based federal agent again. So it's fun to see that. And
I forgot this was in Seattle. That's
well, he's from Seattle. It's in LA.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's just kind of a far enough place that they don't actually have to know where he is, I guess is what it is. But nonetheless,
cover story.
Yeah. It's a very very bloody, very gross film. Really fun, really amusing. It doesn't really have much going on in it other than the sort of B-movie pleasures, but it's really scraping the ceiling of what that can be.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could be talking about a few Carpenter movies with that description.
Yes,
I feel like.
And
it obviously with the grossness you said and the body swapping leads to a little can play with some of the paranoia that the thing is trafficking in too.
Sort of, that's not really within the purview of the Hidden's aims.
Right.
But
it's more about car chases than the blood tests. But
but yeah, it's definitely more in the action movie vein for Carpenter, which you wouldn't necessarily think given the aliens and such. But it's closer to an Assault on Precinct 13 kind of vibe, and just that it's a dirty ass action movie with many torsos just exploding throughout. It happens frequently. There's flamethrowers and bazookas. It's the whole thing. It made me wish that Carpenter had got to do a buddy cop film at some point, because this is what that feels like.
Yeah, he does. It's not. I mean, he does concoct those scenarios weirdly, but then he doesn't it feels like they prop up later in the movie. Yeah, buddy things that Assault on Precinct 13, they develop kind of an antagonistic but into buddy relationship, and even Childs McCready in the thing.
Yeah,
kind of go through that, and Goes to Mars does a pretty half-assed version of it.
There's
at the end,
Jack Burton and Dennis Dunn kind of have that dynamic. He does this. He does buddy stuff. He just never did cop stuff. It's kind of. I think he would have been good at a buddy cop film, actually. If you put him in you make him do Red Heat or some kind of film that didn't quite make it, and I think Carpenter just makes that film a bit better. Makes it maybe that movie works if Carpenter's behind the camera. I
do think now that you're saying that, though, it is part of the Carpenter sensibility, though, is that he's not that into cops. Assault on Precinct 13, I suppose,
that's true.
Is cops technically, but it's such an Old West abandoned fort scenario that they're not doing police work.
That actually seems probably, I guess he's kind of just not that guy. He's sort of anti-cops, just in his general makeup. Not that he ever did that explicitly, but, he doesn't really like authoritarian figures in that way. He's too much of a Snake Plissken.
Exactly.
I would have enjoyed seeing his police. He's
too much of a punk. That's why Green Room does kind of make sense.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Okay, that's pretty much all I got. I mean, I don't know. I didn't get again. I saw the movie Overlord a few years ago.
I watched it last night.
Monster movie. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember kind of liking it. I didn't see it that long ago, but I'm having a real hard time remembering it clearly.
That is a bit of a thing with it. I think it's a very underrated one, actually. I really like Overlord. It's fresh in my mind right now. I watched it last night. I think that's a good ass time, and yeah, it's definitely Carpenter-esque. It feels like if he got to finally make a video game movie, like he'd been talking about, and he chose Wolfenstein, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you could have just called this movie Wolfenstein and changed nothing about it, and everyone would have been totally satisfied. I'm pretty sure. It is, it's a World War II action movie with a bunch of paratroopers jumping into occupied France on D-Day, find themselves in this little French town with a castle on the hill, where Nazi scientists are doing experiments on making super soldiers, essentially, or zombie super soldiers, monsters. And so, it starts off as a war film and kind of becomes this crazy mutant monsters in a castle chasing around people movie with, some big fun Nazi performances, and Wyatt Russell doing his
starring
most,
Kurt Russell's son.
Yeah, exactly. The most committed Kurt Russell thing he ever did, He's never been more trying to emulate his dad's vibe than he is in this film. And it's gory, too. It's super, super violent. A lot of flesh sliding off of shit. It's, gooey.
I remember it being messy, yeah.
It is very, very much the sort of film. It's also kind of riffing on a lot of World War II stuff, obviously. It's doing Private Ryan and Inglourious Bastards. But at its core, it kind of just has this B-movie sensibility that is just fun and feels like the sort of thing, like, again, if you wanted to see Carpenter's cop movie, The Hidden is sort of that. And if you want to see his war movie, it's kind of this. It's kind of Overlord. A little bit. It's slicker, It doesn't really feel like the sort of B movie he'd make. It's a little bit too studio, just in the editing and the look of it. But it scratches the itch, man. It's a fun one.
Yeah. That's, a lot of the way I feel about Lockout. It is a little too slick to fully capture the vibe, but the influence is still all over it. Like, you can't miss it.
That's the problem with it, man. We go through all these movies, and it's very difficult to say, like, well, I got one for you. It Follows. The director of It Follows explicitly says, I studied John Carpenter movies for the look of this movie. I wanted to do the exact shots, and you can see them when you watch the movie. There's plenty of shots of the guy of the It Follows creature just sort of walking in the background that feel right out of Halloween and the suburbs at all. But that's sort of an outlier, because it's hard to pinpoint his directorial influences as opposed to just sort of, these are story elements that would fit him. These are, this is material that feels very much of his type.
Well, that's a segue to the sort of final thing on this is, what if, I think it's really pronounced in the Carpenter case that when we're talking about their influences, when people are identifying the ripoffs, it's all about the aesthetics. And with Carpenter, the synth stuff is so recognizable that's an easy aesthetic to want to imitate, and then also for audiences to come on to. But what if we're talking about more thematic partners to it, people who are interested in Carpenter things but not imitating his look and sound? And I think Green Room is a really good example of that. I was going to say It Follows also there, even though it does have some of the, like, a little bit of the Carpenter-ish sound to it.
It does.
It feels like it feels like it's very inspired by Halloween without being a direct Halloween ripoff the way that other slashers are.
I really like
it's not
that.
It's not a slasher in the same way, but it's doing a very similar thing of, like, taking this suburban Midwestern, by way of Pasadena or whatever they do in the original, but sort of sleepy suburban setting and suffusing it with evil in a way that I think that It Follows probably does that as effectively as anything since the original Halloween. And those stalking sequences around those, suburban streets are
you're
feel
right.
very indebted.
That is probably the place to end then. I mean, because that does feel like the complete package on a Carpenter influenced film. Like it's an excellent film, and it really does take the things from Halloween and specifically Halloween, but kind of more of his films, just in the look of it, and do its own thing that is in its way as effective as sort of the problem of evil stuff in the original Halloween. There is, it's also riffing on the having sex gets you killed thing.
Oh yeah, yes, of course.
That is kind of sort of erroneously established in the original Halloween. It's making that explicit, and yeah, the ending is definitely just like, is it still out there? I guess in some fashion. It's,
right.
It's never really gone, whatever it is.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's quoting Halloween directly, but it is doing a lot of the same thematic stuff there, I feel like.
Oh, the sequel is getting made.
Oh, really?
Same filmmaker, yes. I think it's called They Follow, which would be a pretty hilarious. Yeah, They Follow. They Follow is going to be the sequel.
Okay. It feels like, I don't know. I mean, he waited long enough. Maybe he's got an idea there. But
no, I think nothing else happened for him is the problem.
Yeah. That might be.
But even still.
Halloween is one that's easier to sequelize because you can always, have new people, new bodies to put the knife into. It does feel like It Follows kind of like is such a more specific, distinct thing that also you kind of like can tap that well dry pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, he can give it another shot. Whatever. I mean, he's had trouble getting anything made since. I think the only other one was Under the Silver Lake, which, well, frankly, I haven't even seen it. So
no, me neither. Mm-hmm. That is a shame though, because I think It Follows is kind of a modern horror masterpiece to my mind. Like, it's one of the best ones.
Terrific film.
It Follows, very good one. Green Room, I'd say spiritually, if not aesthetically. Mm-hmm. And then Attack the Block, kind of spiritually and aesthetically. That's the whole package to me of it's just English John Carpenter movie. And it really does fit, like I said, the punk sensibilities there. Part of the reason why Attack the Block feels so in line with Carpenter is how it like refuses to have the cops be a help in any way.
Yeah.
Or
to that end, there's one more I thought of that really has, I think, the punk rock kind of fucking pissed off anti-establishment vibe of Carpenter, and that's the Purge franchise.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, the two really good ones, I would say, are kind of prime slices of Carpenter riffs. That's the second and third ones, I believe. The ones with Frank Grillo, who is a very good Carpenter-esque protagonist as well.
And they do seem like if you could, just delete some of the date chirons, those could be on their way to creating the world of Escape from New York and Escape from LA. Like,
absolutely, yeah,
could all be in the timeline.
And yeah, I think those are closer to his deal than they would be to, I don't know, Verhoeven or whatever. I mean, that's a distinction to make, but those are definitely sort of anarchy in the streets action films, but also with fun masks. So and pissed off at America. With a low opinion of America too, so that's a fun thing that Carpenter tended to mix into a lot of these.
Yeah, well, we'll have to draw the distinctions between Carpenter and Verhoeven when we get around to doing a Verhoeven series. But first, we'll be pivoting back to our Terry Gilliam series. That we'll have something coming up there in this feed pretty shortly.
And the next time we talk about the influences of one of our former directors, it'll be Michael Mann. Talk about that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. You know what? I liked all the movies we talked about today. I think every single one I enjoyed on some level. Carpenter ripoffs is a good time.
Yeah, I don't think we avoided all the bad ones if they're out there.
Well, there are, and there's more than enough good ones that we could talk about.
Well, there's bad remakes, specifically. We talked about it. We've been through that in the main series, too. The Carpenter remakes are garbage. The Carpenter ripoffs are quite a bit of fun.
All right, well, thanks for listening. Happy Halloween and all of that.